Today I'm reviewing the Dualit Classic Kettle. I've owned this one since 2017 and it's been a trooper, but there are some things you need to know about it. I consider my money well spent here. This kettle is 8 years old and it still looks good and it still works. It has always been a pleasure to use. I had a good nose through the reviews on the Dualit and John Lewis websites because I wanted to see if my experience matched other people's. Yes and no. My main bugbear is that Dualit isn't, in my opinion, upfront about what's involved if this very expensive kettle goes wrong, and a few reviewers have had issues. I looked into the repair process when I wrote a review for this kettle on my blog, because one of the main selling points is the patented repairable element. The website says if your heating element ever wears out, it can be quickly swapped for a new one. Dualit. We have different ideas of what quickly is. This is the process if you need a repair. You contact customer services, they give you an estimate. In July 25, it was £58.09. That includes parts, labour and return postage. You send the kettle to them via recorded delivery. Once they receive it, they'll give you a quote, and if you go ahead, you'll get the kettle back within 15 to 21 working days, and that is from when they receive the kettle. With delivery, I've estimated the total cost to be about £65. They told me that you can't fit the parts yourself because they use specialist equipment and then they safety test the kettle. Fair enough. My issue is that I couldn't find this information easily on their website. It is in the small print in the product manual, but you have to download that to see it, whereas the marketing about the repairable element, that is way more prominent on the product page. There's also text about finding spare parts in the support section, and that just isn't relevant to this product at all. You can't buy and fit spares yourself for this kettle. The guarantee is 1 year if you buy from Dualit or 2 years from John Lewis. So once you're out of that period, if the element dies, you'll have to shell out a further £65 and be without the kettle for up to a month. Now, the other thing that's concerning is the switch. Mine has been fine, touch wood, but other people have had issues. The John Lewis website is really helpful because you can filter the reviews by keyword. If you type in switch, around 5% of people have had problems, and a couple of those people received £80 quotes to repair the switch. I just wanted to mention it because although the John Lewis dataset is fairly small, it seems like the switch fails more than the element does. Anyway, that was maybe a bit ranty, but it's called a quick boil long lifespan kettle. At this sort of price point, about £150, you have high expectations about the build quality and longevity. I really feel that Dualit should be upfront about what's involved if the kettle needs a repair. Then you can make an informed decision before you buy, rather than potentially getting a shock further down the line. Alright, moving on. The next points will be more brief. The light is a bit feeble. My previous Magimix kettle had a bright blue light that shouted, "I'm on, and I've got this much water in me." Someone in the reviews mentioned that if you have poor eyesight, it's hard to see the water level. I agree, but it doesn't really bother me. You can't fully empty the kettle. It's got a lip around the top, which always hangs on to a bit of water and a few limescale crumbs. I've turned the kettle upside down to gently shake the water out, but that doesn't really work either. A reviewer had the same problem and they contacted Dualit. Apparently we are not supposed to invert the kettle in case water gets into the steam pipe, so I've stopped doing that. My worry was that when I descale the kettle, some of the descaler would get stuck in there. The way around it for me was to switch to using white vinegar instead. It's good for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's cheap, and secondly, if there are traces of vinegar left in the kettle, and I do rinse it well, at worst I would have a slightly weird tasting cup of tea. Some neutral points now. Neutral because I thought they might be issues, but they weren't. They may be for you. The kettle has a hinged lid with a ring pull and finger guard. I like a push button lid, but I understand why they left it out. The kettle is built for longevity and a button is probably a point of weakness. They put a push button lid on the Architect kettle, but that one has a 1.5 litre capacity, which is too small for me, plus it doesn't have litre measurements. Anyway, the ring pull and finger guard are fine. They're a decent size. I've never burnt myself, even when I've boiled the kettle several times in a row. Other people have though, and one reviewer uses a wooden spoon to open the lid, so try that if it's an issue for you. Some people find the lid to be stiff. Maybe I got lucky, but mine's been fine. I just thought it was worth mentioning if you have strength or mobility issues with your hands. The lid has these small metal catches and they can be gently realigned with a screwdriver to ease the stiffness. Speaking of strength, a few reviewers have mentioned that the kettle is on the heavier side. It's 1.6 kilos when empty, and if you fill it to the max level, it'll weigh 3.3 kilos. I filled it beyond that and not found it to be too heavy, but do take that maximum weight into account. On to the pros. Litre and cup measurements. I am so glad it's got both. As a right-handed person who prefers litres, I wish they'd swap the measurements around, but I'll live. At least they are there, unlike on the Architect kettle. The spout. It's trademarked and it's called Pure Pour. There's another spout called Sure Pour, and the names did make me chuckle because they seemed a bit lofty. But then I poured from the kettle and was like, oh, it's the postman. This is good. My last kettle had a more standard spout, and if you live in a hard water area like we do, it will eventually get limescale underneath and then it'll dribble, which is really annoying. And you can't just wipe limescale off, it's stubborn. This spout can also get limescale buildup, but because of its shape, it doesn't drip. There's something behind the spout that directs the water when you pour, and it is so satisfying. I don't know if I can convey it very well in this video. You probably need to feel it for yourself, but it's really well designed. The kettle has the quiet mark, patented whisper boil. Whisper is a bit of a stretch, but I don't think it's a loud kettle. Other people do. There are mixed opinions in the reviews. Now, just this morning, I was listening to Six Music radio station. Rihanna Dillon is on Fridays, and she goes through TV and movie reviews, and I always like to listen to that. And cold boiled the kettle while she was talking. We've got speakers in our kitchen. The kettle is over there, 3 meters away, and I'm at this table. And I couldn't hear Rihanna. But I wouldn't expect to, really. And the kettle doesn't take that long to boil. It's got a 3 kilowatt element, and I'll pop a list of the boiling time. There's my clock, excuse me. I'll pop a list of the boiling times on the screen. I timed it a while ago and it was accurate down to the second. It is a hardy kettle. I've banged it a few times and you would never know. There are no dings, no dents, which I think is impressive. The cord storage underneath the base is neat. The base sits near our plug socket and there's no excess cable flapping around getting in the way. There's a boil dry safety cutoff. I've managed to never boil this kettle empty, but if I do, it should be fine. All right, we're done with the pros and cons. Just one more thing, as Columbo would say. We've always filled this kettle with filtered water. We are not always on top of changing the filter granules, so the kettle does get limescale buildup, but filtered water definitely helps. What do you think? Are you looking to buy this kettle? Do you own it? Have you had any issues? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in a water filter, I've reviewed our Arc Purifier here. It is a great companion to this kettle. Milk in first or milk in last? First for me, but whatever works for you.